Hello, everybody. I'm Dylan, and today we're going to take a look at Bridegroom, an autobiography/documentary which documents the life of Shane Bitney Crone, a young gay man who found himself stripped of all his legal rights after the tragic death of his longtime partner. Bridegroom was released in 2013 and features Shane Crone as well as members of his family and friends, who are interviewed in a documentary format. The film was produced and directed by Linda Bloodworth-Thomson, distributed by Virgil Films and Entertainment, and production company is Organica Music Group. So Bridegroom, which is the family name of Shane's boyfriend, Tom Bridegroom, begins as Shane recounts his teenage years in his small town. He went through confusion and insecurities, as most gay teenagers do. But after he sends something of a love letter to one of a lover, most of us have never even thought about the problems and hardships that could bring about. Tom died very young, so many of us can't relate with that issue yet, but it's an all too real possibility. Marriage equality comes into question, the rights of partners of the same sex, etc. So this film does tackle a variety of themes. Early in the film, we see teenage ostracization and homophobia. Shane discusses his experience as a gay youth, sending a risque letter to a good friend, but it backfires and he is heavily ostracized at his school, not only from the students but even from some of the adults. There is lack of support for Shane, which leads him to even contemplate suicide, but luckily he finds the strength not to do it. First love is another theme. Once Shane moves to another environment, he experiences the first heartstrings of love and a blossoming romance, which lasts a few years. Sadly, hardships strike again as we experience the death of Tom and the aftermath for Shane. He is grieving, then is forbidden to attend the funeral and loses many of Tom's possessions. Many of us probably have never thought of this scenario, but it's a very real thing for those who have been through it. Marriage equality or even legality is definitely put into question. Today, gay marriage is legalized in all 50 states, but this wasn't the case 10 years ago, so luckily there is some progress made on that front. So today, Shane Bitney Crone is a filmmaker, writer, speaker, and advocate for LGBT rights. And he got engaged in 2018, so it just goes to prove that no matter how hard life gets, you must never give up because you always have an opportunity to turn things around. So this film holds very good ratings. IMDb has rated it an 8 out of 10, and it currently holds a score of 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't help but give this film a perfect 10 out of 10. It's difficult to beat a well put together true-to-life documentary like this. So I really can't come up with any negative criticisms on this, unless you're in the mood to watch an actual movie instead of a documentary. But I promise you it's well paced and never boring. So have you seen Bridegroom? What did you think of it? Please give me a like, subscribe, comment if you want, and hopefully I'll see you for the next review.